The head of the police union in New York City lashed out at virtually everybody in this speech that he gave that went viral. Let's take a look.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike O'Meara. I'm the president of the New York State Association of PBAs. And I just want to talk to you, the press, and I want to talk to the police officers. 375 million interactions with the public every year. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive responses. Overwhelmingly positive responses. But I read in the papers all week, we all read in the papers, that in the black community, mothers are worried about their children getting home from school without being killed by a cop. What world are we living in? That doesn't happen. It does not happen. I am not Derek Chauvin. They are not him. He killed someone. We didn't. We are restrained. And you know what? I'm saying this to all the cops here. Because you know what? Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators, the press, everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed about our profession. Well, you know what? This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and bugs, and start treating us with some respect. That's what we're here today to say. We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Trying to make us embarrassed of our profession. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive. Nobody talks about all the police officers that were killed in the last week in the United States of America, and there were a number of them. We don't condone Minneapolis. We roundly reject what he did as disgusting. It's disgusting. It's not what we do. It's not what police officers do. Our legislators abandoned us. The press is vilifying us. Well, you know what, guys? I'm proud to be a cop. And I'm going to continue to be proud to be a cop until the day I retire. And that's all I have to say.
Now, somebody on Twitter, and I wish I had the name so I could give credit to the original person who made this, but somebody decided, I'm going to remix that a little bit because it feels more appropriate given what's been going on around the country to splice in some of the other things. So watch this.
Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators. The press.
Oh my God.
Everybody's trying to shame us. Into being embarrassed. Oh my fucking God. Well, you know what? This isn't stained. It's still got a shine on it. Stop treating us like animals and thugs. Start treating us with some respect. It's disgusting. Trying to make us embarrassed of our profession. Don't resist! Don't resist! Don't resist! Don't resist, bro! I'm not! And that's all I have to say.
Listen, the thing about this that's so frustrating is that you're an employee of the people. Would you be able to get away with yelling at your boss like that? Taking that tone with your boss? I don't think so. I think anybody who yells at their boss like that is probably going to get fired. But this guy has this sense like there's no repercussions, And so he goes out there and does this whiny, moany, bitchy press conference where he's yelling at the public. And it's like, hold on, son. We're your boss. You're not our boss. You don't lord over us. So it really highlights this mentality that they have. This mentality of like, they feel entitled. And that's the entire problem, is that police seem to feel entitled to be in this overlord category where they get to act in a way that's not fully in accordance with the law, and their rebuttal to you is, well, I'm trying here, and I kind of am the law. And that's totally unacceptable. You're supposed to be the professional in the situation. They don't get that, and they don't care. They don't understand that protect and serve means you're supposed to be better than. So, you know, it reminds me of the typical conservative dodge. Whenever you bring up police brutality, they go to, well, what about black-on-black violence? And to shift the conversation to let's talk about crime as opposed to police brutality is to deny the fact that our public servants are uniquely responsible to the people and need to be held to a higher standard. You're supposed to want the professionalism from them. Now, we can have the conversation about what leads to crime and what the solutions are. Now, they're not going to like the substance of that conversation either, because a lot of that goes into having more education, more economic opportunity, so on and so forth. So there are left-wing answers to that problem as well. But really, it's just a category error. We're not supposed to be having that conversation. If the conversation is police brutality, then there needs to be a way to hold the police accountable and to change the way they do the job to keep them professional and to make it so that they realize their job is to protect and serve. Nobody in any other job could get away with whining like that and have no consequences. But instead, there's this feeling of entitlement, and there's this feeling almost like it's a bad relationship or something, and the police have been holding in the way they feel about the public for so long, and now they feel like, I'm just going to let it all out. You know what? You've been making me feel really bad here, and I'm trying, all right? And, the overwhelming majority of our encounters are good with the public, so why are we getting no credit? Why are you shaming us? Why are you treating us like thugs? Listen, in the United States of America, about 1,000 people die every single year because of cops. Now, there's some percentage of that that's legitimate in the sense that it really is like defensive violence on the part of the cops. But understand that in other developed countries, virtually nobody gets killed by the cops. In many developed countries, cops are not even armed. I mean, if they need to show up to a situation where they have to be armed, they'll be armed. But just, in standard everyday procedure, they're not armed with lethal weapons. So this idea of like this victimhood complex, like there's nothing that's there to be fixed and like they're doing nothing wrong, is really the heart of the problem. He says in there, our legislators abandoned us. Legislators abandon you? How? How did they abandon you? Because they're like mildly asking for some tiny degree of justice? First of all, there's not a single legislator who I've seen who's on board. Well, actually, maybe there are some people like Ilhan Omar I saw repeat the slogan. And I guess Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez I saw repeat the slogan, the defund the police thing. But like 99.9% of actual legislators and politicians are not saying defund the police. The stuff that they're all asking for is just the standard solutions, like the Campaign Zero solutions, which I've brought up on this show a million times. End the broken windows policing, do community oversight, limit the use of force, independently investigate and prosecute the bad cops, community representation, body cameras on the police, film them, can't turn them off a penalty of law, new training towards de-escalation, end for-profit policing, demilitarization, fair police union contracts. I'll add on top of that, end the drug war, which is the most important one because that's the fuel that allows them to subjugate and oppress poor communities and communities of color. So that's all people are asking for. In other words, people are asking for you to do your job the way you're supposed to do your job. I mean, everybody would have a very high opinion of the police if they understood, okay, we're going to go ahead and put a priority on going after the robbers, the murderers, the rapists, the pedophiles, the financial criminals on Wall Street committing fraud at an insane rate. That's where we're going to put our focus. All these petty crimes that shouldn't even really be crimes. No, we're not going to do that. And we're not going to act like an occupying army. You wonder where the bad feelings towards police come from? Yes, it's the fact that they act like an occupying army in many communities. So it's just, I mean, honestly, this is a wake-up call to many people. When you see all the videos of the police brutality that came out over the past, couple weeks, and then you see that this is their reaction, there really is a sense of like, we're above accountability. We are the law. So we get to say whatever we want. We get to do whatever they want. And the fact that this guy can give this, victimhood entitled rant really is everything wrong with policing. This mindset is everything wrong with policing. No introspection, no realizing your job is to serve the community, to protect and serve. You have to be professional. You have to be better than. You have to be held to a higher standard. Everybody's just asking for the obvious changes. Like, what do you want? And the answer is simple. They want to be armed to the teeth, and they want no accountability for however they act, because they want you to think, oh, when it's the police, they mean well, so they get to do whatever they want, and we'll just file that under the category of they mean well, so it's okay. No, that's not how we're supposed to function in a developed country. That's not how that works. When you guys do offensive violence, as you so often have done within the past couple of weeks, that's supposed to be just as illegal as a civilian doing offensive violence. So it's really unacceptable. And I'll tell you what, there are a lot of people who formerly had a very, very high opinion of the cops who've had an enlightenment moment in these past couple of weeks. When I saw the Buffalo police officer shove the 75-year-old man, he's bleeding from the ear. Then I saw the next day, 57 officers resigned in solidarity with the 2 officers who were suspended for shoving the 75-year-old man. I realized that, oh, okay, so this isn't an instance of a few bad apples. There's a sense through the entire police force of impunity. They're above the public. And so they're demanding leeway to act in ways that would otherwise be unethical and immoral and illegal. And I totally reject that. Because then you become the criminal when you act in that way. 57 cops resigning in solidarity with the ones who shoved a 75-year-old man and made him bleed out of his ear. 57. And like everybody else, when I started reading the headline, I thought they were going to say 57 cops resign in solidarity with the 75-year-old man. No. They did it in solidarity with the cops who shoved the old man. That's a light bulb moment. This is a light bulb moment here. Like, even given, like, what are you going to do? You're just going to deny? See, I won't deny that there's some rioters and some looters, and I condemn that. I'm not okay with that. They appear to be denying that there's any instances other than, the killing of George Floyd, that, like, any of the examples within the past 2 weeks exist of the cops being the aggressors. We've seen a million. There's a thread on Twitter that's over 300 tweets long with unambiguous, clear examples of police violence and them initiating it. You just gonna gloss over all that and act like there's nothing to fix here? You shoulder no blame? You're gonna play the victim card? You're gonna be whiny and entitled? Imagine being in a position of power and authority and being this whiny. You know what's crazy? This even makes politicians look good. Because I don't know about you guys, I don't think I've ever seen a politician give this kind of like a angry, like you don't appreciate us and we're trying our best here. I don't think I've ever seen a politician do that. At least there's some understanding from politicians like, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to be the person who's representing the people, so I can't yell at the people and blame the people and act entitled because they're my boss and I would look ridiculous. I'd look like a petty little idiot. Totally different. Not even bothering to pretend. So entitled, so whiny. Fix the problems in policing. Now, by the way, I'm actually not suggesting that they even have the capacity to do that, because they don't. The real answer does come from the politicians, but I'd go as far, man, as doing a literal purge of all the police departments. If you've had more than 3 complaints of any kind against you over your policing career, you're gone. You're gone. And I don't care if we end up firing 85% of the police officers that currently are police officers. If that's what it takes to make a police department what it's supposed to be, those who protect and serve, those who are ethical, those who are professional, so be it. So be it. If that's what we need. I also love the other idea that I told you guys I heard on NBA on TNT. Kenny Smith said a police the police law where whatever the worst officer is guilty of, any officer around that officer is also guilty of that crime. So in other words, if you see a police officer, like what happened to George Floyd, one of them on his neck, if you had this law in place, the other officers would be like, get off. Because if he dies, all of them are guilty of second-degree murder, which is what he was charged with. I mean, it seems harsh, but if that's what it takes to stop this kind of violent mindset, then hell yeah, that's what we got to do. So it's time for a real change, and I think it's funny because his attempt was to do the opposite, was to make people feel like, hey, come on, we're doing a good job over here, we're doing as best as we can. If anything, this just further solidified my position that we have to do all the Campaign Zero reforms, plus ending the drug war, plus a zero-tolerance approach in terms of, complaints against the police and brutality and instances of unprofessionalism, plus the police law. I'm not sure I've seen a single police reform idea that I haven't supported that I think would drastically change everything. Honestly, even if you just end the drug war, that alone takes away so much of the fuel that allows for the police, oppressing various communities up front. So that's the answer. Congratulations to this guy for having the exact opposite of the intended effect. You come across like a whiny, insecure, bitchy, unstable, unprofessional idiot who now drastically needs to get reined in. That's what you are. I know you're trying to come across as the opposite. Like, hey, get off our butts. We're doing our best here. No. Now I want them more involved. Now I want more restraints. Now I want more cops fired. Because this attitude, this mindset, this entitled way of viewing the world is unacceptable.